Hello and a very warm welcome to this practice session. In this episode I talk about sound designing a bass. I call it emerging bass because it's emerging. And it sounds like that. Okay, but let's get started. So I created this bass with polysynth and some other devices. And a short overview, I used a multi-note device here, used the original key that I pressed, then 1 octave above and 1 octave down with a little different velocity settings. So from my original velocity over here, the higher note is minus 23 and the lower note is minus 21. Okay, that's the multi-note. Because of the multi-note, it sounds like more like if I press it without multi-note. It's nice, but with 3 notes, 3 different octaves, it's nicer. Okay, so I keep that on. Then I used an polysynth, as I said. I used only one oscillator. I used here the retrigger mode. And then on the filter section, I used the filter to LowCut some frequencies. Then I used the drive a little bit. Then I configured the filter, and I will explain it later what I did over here. Right now I used the filter envelope generator. I used the amplitude envelope generator, the ADSR. And then I used delay 1 with a longer delay setting of 5/16th. A little bit tweaking over here, I think. And then I used reverb device, a very simple reverb device with an early reverb and a late reverb setting, and the wet signal is cut with EQ filter setting. So that's it. And let's start to build it on our own. So first thing I load in is the multi-note because I want to have those. These are the default settings. Just click away the perfect fifth. So then I want to use the polysynth. And maybe in the beginning I deactivate the multi-note, and such a polysynth sounds like this. Not very like the sound we want to have, but it's on already on a sawtooth. I put on here the retrigger, so I have every time the same sound when I press a key. At the moment I deactivate the velocity, so I don't have to press hard on the key, so always the same. And the first thing I do to come to this sound is I try to listen what it is. First thing I notice is that it's a sawtooth, and there is a filter that is closed, slowly opening and closing again. And if you just pay attention on the filter movement, just try to get it if there's a linear movement, like it's going, it's opening up and then closing again in the same speed. Just pay attention on that. it doesn't do it linear, so that's important as well. So we are over here, and I have to close the filter because I want to start like the other one. And currently this sound doesn't sound very thick like the other one, so I activate the multi-note. That's better, but not still. I use the resonance to just try something, search for it. I try to use another filter, not the 2-pole or the 6 dB low pass filter. Maybe the 4-pole, the 24. Okay. And the filter is doing something like that. Okay, and I want to have that automated, like every time I'm pressing a key. This filter should do that movement. Like that. And for that we have over here the filter envelope depth, as you can see down here in the info bar. Always shows. And with this filter envelope depth, you can define the amount that the filter should move. So in positive direction you do that, and in negative direction do that. So what that means, if I put the filter over here, for example, half the way, or like yeah, this 60 something semitones, the filter over here will move in this direction. So if you do it like that, the filter will open completely. And if I do it like that, the filter will do that movement. So, but I want to open it. So for example, I define that it should maybe open completely. That's okay. So now I close the filter and I press a key. Instead of like this. But the original one was maybe I deactivate the effects. This is wrong. So the movement, this movement I can control with this filter envelope generator, with this ADSR knobs. So at the moment the filter is open when I press a key, but it should be here. So I raise the attack over here, for example, like that. And now I have the movement from closed to open filter. For example, like that. Well, let's make it like that. But we listened before on the opening and closing the filter if it's the same speed. Wait, this one. So this isn't the same speed. This is linear, and for this purpose there is a little filter curve over here where you can change from linear speed to a logarithmic speed, like a convex or concave curve. So let's go over here, something like that. And now it should be nearly the same. something like that. Okay, so this is how we configure the movement of a filter with something like this filter envelope depth. So where we have the filter position in the beginning and the filter position at the end. Then we have a curve, how it speeds up and slows down. And the whole movement we define with the filter envelope generator, the ADSR knobs over here. So if I put it, for example, like that, it gets a quick attack or a slower attack. And then we have also the amplitude envelope generator, the RDSR over here. So, and the thing is, if the sustain is fully open and I press a key, so the note sustains. But it depends what we want to do in our track. If there should be always this suspended tone, okay, I could release it, then it's gone. But sometimes I want to have it like I want to press it and hold it down, and then I want to have it somewhere in the background. So, and for this, in this example, it's extremely important because we have a filter that is closed, opening and closing again. This means we have different loudness going on, not volume. The volume is always the same regarding the envelope, but if you use a filter and cutting off like some of the mid-rangey, it sounds always a little bit quieter then because of the Fletcher-Munson curve. But that's something I explained in another sound basic tutorial. So I want to have this tone. When I keep the key pressed, I want it having there, but not that loud. So I have to turn down the sustain somewhere over here, but I have to look at the filter curve over here. So decay is very long. And if I want to have the sound itself loud enough, I have to look at this decay over here, because if I configure it the same way, it's quieter. That's because while the decay knob over here is closing down the volume. So I have to put here a little bit more decay, for example. So the volume doesn't close before the filter ends back again, or is at the maximum, for example. I could change this if I give a little bit drive or gain to the sound itself. And in this filter section of the polysynth, there's as well something like a high pass or low cut, for example. And I would recommend that you always have an eye on that or use this if you don't need this low frequencies. So somewhere over, I don't know, 30 hertz or something. Because low and very high frequencies uses a lot of energy that you can hear it. You lose maybe if you listen to that sound in solo, then you hear a lot more like the low frequencies that I cut off over here. But this is more like a little bit sound design. This filter, at the end I would put another filter, like for example an EQ plus. And if you look over here, there's not much cutting. So additionally, I would put, if I don't need those low frequency in my track, I would cut them again. Because you always should cut what you don't need to keep everything clear and clean. Maybe you already know that or read a lot of articles or watched a lot of tutorials about that, about cleaning the low cut. That is something you should do with everything, not only the low cut. Just cut away everything you don't need, but always listen to that sound if you need it or not, and then put it in context of your track. Because at this moment in solo I could use maybe a little bit more of low frequencies, or maybe in the context of the track I don't need that. I could do it like that, or cut it even harder with a 4-pole. Maybe because I don't need that. And if I don't need that, there's space for other instruments that could use that space, like a sub bass or a bass drum or something like that. For example, something around like 90 hertz or something like that. That depends. So, and I always want to have a little bit velocity, because I can use it while playing, and most importantly, the multi-note uses it. You could, for example, use here another 24 2 octaves above. The thing is with the different notes in octaves, if you just use, for example, one note, it's okay, but sometimes you want to have some effect on that it sounds like even more and more, or you want to have it like clear, or you want to have it like fat more and clear. And you could try to do that everything with filters and some saturators and everything. But the most simple way is just to use different octaves. So if you listen to that, just one note. And let me just deactivate that. And now I use the one note and one octave lower with a little less velocity. Just ignore the velocity right now. I play the original and then these two notes. So there's a lower frequency already there. And if you use octave higher, plus 12 semitones, there's something more clear in it. And now you could say, okay, I want to have this bottom fat bass and put him 2 octaves higher note, for example. You could try to make it even less loud, like a constant note, or you could try to use only for that note an additional 80s modulator. So, or for example, use a modulator over here, modulate this mix knob, so you add another octave with another oscillator in it and say, okay, this is only a short peak, like a transient on a percussion or something. There's this high note to make it like a clear sound, for example. And always look at it in the context of a track. So if you need it in a track, maybe you want to use just another octave, lower or upper octave, or you have to use, for example, like saturators or compressors to make the bass more consistent or to create more harmonics. So you hear this bass in smaller speakers, for example. Okay, but we have the sound right now. And then I added just a delay plus. Not a delay plus, a delay 1, mono delay. And the default setting is this. And this was a little too fast for me, so I added the 5th 16th. So it's more slower, like big monsters coming or something like that. And to give it even a little bit more room, I added a simple reverb to it, where I have an early reverb and a late reverb. And the early reverb is just default. And maybe a little bit more late reverb, like 3 seconds. A little bit more here. And you hear at the end when the bass is emerging that there's like some neek in the reverb. Just listen to it. Like something metallic is going on. And I don't want that. So I add something to the wet signal. An EQ, for example, EQ2, because I don't need much. And then I cut the high frequencies of the wet signal, for example, like that. And you see this darker area over here. This is this nick. Maybe even more. If I cut it. It's a little bit like a string or something. I could add here as well a chorus or something that is just doing some nice manipulation to the sound, so it's not that, how do you say, constant over here. But there are two other buttons for the reverb. This is the diffusion and build up. Something like a diffusion for the late reverb. Diffusion is just if you have a signal coming in here, reverb, it's, if you have no diffusion, it's practically a delay, if you will. And diffusion is diffusing it, like spreading all the delays from different areas. And the buildup is something similar. So it doesn't take just a delay and reflect it. It's diffusing it with the buildup. And over here, the filter, you could decide if you want to have something like that. no release or if it releases slowly. It's a little bit softer if you release the key too early. So, and that, maybe it's too long. So that's the bass itself, and I think that's everything. Maybe there's a little bit difference what I did here. No, there are 3 notes, and there are 3 notes as well. And you could fiddle a little bit around with it if you use the retrigger, for example, or if you want to have it more stereo, like with the unison or something. But one thing is maybe still important. This is the level over here, because if you design a sound in with an instrument and it's too quiet for you, don't go over. Wait, don't go over this limit, like over here. Just reduce the sound over here. So you keep going, or you keep staying in this area. Because if you start to bounce these sounds and it is over the level that you set, you get some crazy distortion things going on. And sometimes you notice this at least when you create an MP3 or something. If you want to have it louder, then pull up the volume meter. That's a better way to hear it louder if you need it louder in a mix. So always look that your tracks, that the limit of your tracks is always set by this level meter, and that your levels don't cross this line. See it as 0 dB. And as I said, if you need it louder or you want to use that at 0 dB, then pull up the volume meter and make it louder with that, for example. That's a very important thing when you want to bounce that at one place, or you want to print it as a stereo file. You get sometimes some crazy effects if you don't watch this limit that you set. Some people have it default over 0 dB. Bitwig has a default at -10 dB, and I think this is really great, because if you create music in this area, you always can make it louder with setting a tool on your master track or a peak limiter or something. It just can push the sound up. So you don't have to be very loud when you're producing or mixing your sound. So that's all right now at the moment. I hope you liked that with the polysynth and the other effects for sure. I will have a look if I do that tutorial as well with a Surge XT synthesizer that you see with another GUI, and that you find yourself with maybe a synthesizer that you know if you don't use Bitwig and you want to recreate this. And I can show it, I think, in a Surge XT with all internal, I think with all internal effects and everything that Surge XT has to offer. So I hope you liked it, and I would ask you to leave a comment, leave a thumb, beat the algorithm, and I hope I see you soon again. Stay healthy. See you soon. Ciao, ciao.